Welcome to the first podcast of Come Talk About Sports. This podcast will be talking about all of fantasy sports. Right now, we're going to be talking about fantasy football. Once the spring comes along, talk about basketball, talk about baseball. Anything you want fantasy sports, I'm going to be here to answer your questions. But first off, let's start with fantasy football and start off with the Thursday Night Football recap. The Panthers, it's sadly time to say. It's time to say goodbye to Mike Davis. And your fantasy lines, Christian McCaffrey coming back, he deserves a spot on your bench, but nothing else. If you just put him on your bench, maybe he has a timeshare, who knows? But you got to bench him now. Curtis Samuel, don't think anything crazy about him. He's not a must-add, must-start. He's nothing. Keep him on the waivers, nothing special. Bridgewater is a streamer guy, just like how he was before. I would not play Bridgewater every week. Just keep him on the waiver wires. When he has a good matchup, play him. I'm not worried about DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson. He's a good matchup, play him. I'm not worried about DJ Moore or Robbie Anderson. They both have below 10 points, but I still think that they're going to be wide receiver 2s or wide receiver 1s. On the Falcons side, I'll say it more later, but it's time to trade Todd Gurley. Todd Gurley just isn't himself, like how he was in LA. His touchdown saved him this week, but it's not going to save him in the future. You got to trade him now. Julio, great game, no question. He's a beast. Put him in your lineup every week. Don't even trade him. He's a must-start. Calvin Ridley, today they came out saying he's day-to-day, so I'm not worried about him. They have a bye. They have a mini bye practically with the Thursday night game, but Calvin Ridley, still wide receiver 2, so got to play him. Hayden Hurst, though, has been surprising me lately. He's a low-end tight end 1 now. Another game with over 10 points. That's 3 straight games for Hayden Hurst with over 10 points. That's pretty surprising, but he's a must-play. Now I'm going to get to my rankings. If you follow any of my socials, I'll be posting these rankings tonight or tomorrow morning. But for my quarterbacks, I'm going to go first. Nothing crazy. I have Tom Brady pretty high, 6, and Carson Wentz at 4. The Wentz matchup with Dallas, I think it's going to be a shootout, surprisingly. I love Wentz this week. Tom Brady, I think he's going to have his revenge against the Giants. He's going to have a good game. Justin Herbert at 8. He could win Rookie of the Year. I love Herbert. Ryan Tannehill is going to be 10. Still, I think he's a QB1, but my surprise pick this year is Drew Brees. I think Drew Brees is going to have a big game. It's going to be either a shootout or it's going to be low scoring versus Chicago, but I will play him. Another guy I have Tua at 18. Tua's interesting. I think he's going to be like what I said to Brees. He's going to be boom or bust. Tua's a guy that you need to add then at your bench if you have a spot. Tua's legit. I think he's legit. Worth putting on your bench, see how he does. I have Matt Stafford at 19. I think Stafford should be cut in all leagues. He's just simply not that good this year. Now going to the running backs. I got Kareem Hunt at 3. Zeke at 4. My surprise one, I have Myles Gaskin at 8. Gaskin's going to get his touches. He's going to get his red zone work. He's the most red zone work in the league, arguably. Jonathan Taylor at 10. Gio Bernard at 11 with Mixon. He's out. Gio Bernard's going to get the works in a high-scoring game versus Tennessee. I have Boston Scott right after at 12. Where he had a good game last week. He's going to continue that good work. And Jamal Williams at 13. And Aaron Jones out. I don't think A.J. Dillon's going to get any work. Like last week, he didn't get anything. But my interesting is 14 to 50. I have Fournette and Rojo. Who knows who's going to get most of the work there. They're both going to get over 10 points, I think. They're both RB2s this week. One's going to break out more than the other. But none of us know who that's going to be. Right below him, I got Melvin, David Montgomery. At 19, I have Le'Veon. I think Le'Veon's going to have a revenge game this week. I love Le'Veon this week versus the Jets. I think they're going to feed him the ball, but Clyde's still going to have a good game. But I think Le'Veon's going to get above 15 this week. At 20, I got JaMychal Hasty. They love him there. But even Tevin Coleman returning, I think he's going to get the work. McKinnon supposedly has these tired legs. I don't know. McKinnon's not looking good, but I would definitely... Hasty's a low-end RB2. My surprise pick is I have James White at 21. He struggled last week with only 1 catch, but he's going to have a good week. There's going to be no Edelman, no N'Keal Harry, and they struggled without using White, so they're going to start using White more. I think he's going to have at least 10 points. Solid low-end RB2 flex play. Then at Travis Homer, who knows who's going to play in Seattle. All the running backs banged up. Carson, game time. Hyde, game time. Homer, game time. But I don't think whoever plays I don't think you should play him. I don't even think Carson's a good choice. Unless you're going to have to probably start Carson. But I wouldn't prefer starting Carson. I don't think he's going to have a good game. Then I got J.K. Dobbins at 28. Dobbins, Ingram's going to be out. I think Dobbins going to get a good amount of work, but I also think Gus Edwards is going to get a lot of work. So I don't have Dobbins crazy high. Now on to the receivers. I think Devontae Adams won. I think Devontae Adams is going to have a just monster game. Minnesota's out with 3 of the top cornerbacks. He's going to go crazy. I have A.J. Brown at 8. I think that game's going to be a shootout with Cincinnati, like I said earlier. A.J. Brown's going to have a good game. My surprise pick, I have Travis Fulgham at 9 versus Dallas. Fulgham is shown he's the real deal. He's a wide receiver too. But this week, he's going to be a top 10 play. I love Travis Fulgham this week. He's a must play. Boyd at 10. Galladay at 11. Galladay's unappreciated. Every game he's played in, he's had over double-digit points. Galladay has to be starting in most leagues. Justin Jefferson at 12. I think the Green Bay game's going to be a shootout. And Mike Evans at 14. Evans going to be boom and bust, no question. I got T. Higgins at 16. Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp at 18 and 19. I think that Miami game's going to be surprisingly good. Shepard at 20 versus Tampa. He's kind of banged up. The offense isn't that good. But I think Shepard's going to get his work like he usually does. I have CeeDee Lamb at 21 with only 1 yard last week. 1 rushing yard. I think this offense is going to turn around, though. CeeDee's going to get his work. CeeDee's going to do good. He's going to get his carries. He's going to do everything he needs to do. I think he's going to have over 100 yards, to be honest. I love him. 24, I have Rashard Higgins. Higgins is going to be the second target there. Him and Jarvis are going to have pretty solid games this week. But I love Rashard Higgins. He's a must-add. He's still available in good amount of leagues, but you have to add Rashard Higgins. I got Juju low at 26. I don't think Juju, I wouldn't even prefer him playing at all. Juju just won't have a good game. Scotty Miller and Cole Beasley, both similar players. I think they're both going to have decent games, nothing amazing. And I have Traquan Smith and AJ Green at 29 and 30. With no Michael Thomas, Traquan Smith could get an increased amount of work. Now moving on to the tight ends. Got Kittle at 1 and Kelsey, no surprise. My surprise, I have Jonnu at 5. I think Jonnu could potentially be the best tight end this week. Jonnu is an animal, and he plays against Cincinnati. Bryant just had over 20 points against him. Who even is Harrison Bryant? He's not that good, and he had 2 touchdowns. Jonnu is gonna have a great game. I have Jimmy Graham at 6. I like Jimmy Graham. Hunter Henry at 7. Richard Rodgers at 8. I like Rodgers. They're going to be throwing him. They don't have many targets. He's going to probably be number 2 behind Fulgham. I have Hawkinson at 9, even though with a tough matchup. Indianapolis hasn't allowed more than 3 points to tight ends. But I think Hawkinson's going to break that, have around 7 to 8. Nothing amazing, but he won't be terrible. Gronk at 10. People have Gronk high this week. I'm not that high on Gronk. He's low on tight end 1. He's nothing amazing. But he's not going to be terrible. Fant and Mike Krzyzewski at 11 and 12. Dalton Schultz at 14. I kind of like Dalton. Dalton Schultz is going to get some work, I think. This Philly game is going to be surprisingly high scoring. Give the ball to Dalton Schultz. I think Ben DiNucci is going to throw the ball to him. And I got Evan Ingram at 16. And it's probably time to drop Ingram. You have 1 more week with him. If he sucks, you drop him. He hasn't done anything. Then Tony at 18. The Minnesota is terrible, the defense. Irv Smith at 19 and Burden at 20. All desperate needs. And I also have Harrison Bryant at 17. He should be left on waivers, but if you're desperate, Harrison Bryant could be a solid choice for the week. But now we are going to go to a ad.
Hey Bobcats, if you're a fan of self-care and natural hair, join Naturally Me. This is an opportunity to become more informed on how to care for and prioritize your mental health and natural beauty. Our meetings are going to start on September 23rd, and they are every other Wednesday at 9:15 via Zoom. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at naturallyme_QU to learn more.
All right, now moving on. These are the questions you guys asked me. I put on my Instagram, asked me questions, and you guys did leave me a lot of questions. First one I got is Dez Bryant worth picking up? Dez Bryant, he's a practice squad player. He used to be on the waiver wire. Nobody should pick him up. I don't think he's going to be anything special this year. Dez Bryant, leave on waivers. That's it. And I got another one. AJ Green, John Brown, or Hollywood Brown. John Brown's banged up. Wouldn't play him at all. AJ Green, been coming back a little, surprisingly. He struggled bad at the beginning of the year, but he's been doing good. But I will go Hollywood. I like Hollywood in maybe a high-scoring game. Both good defenses, so I wouldn't be surprised low-scoring. But I think Hollywood's going to have one big play that's going to make him a start. Another question is, which QB has the best and worst playoff schedule? For best, I found a few quarterbacks here. Carson Wentz goes against New Orleans in Week 14. Next week, Arizona and Dallas in Week 23. They're all the bottom 15 against the quarterbacks. And also like Brady. Brady has an even easier schedule. He goes Minnesota, Week 14. It goes Atlanta, the worst passing defense in the league on Week 16. Week 15, I mean. Then Detroit in Week 16. Easy schedule. Herbert could have an even easier one. He goes Atlanta, 32. Week 15, he goes Las Vegas, who's the 30th. And you go Denver, Week 16. Herbert's going to go. He's going to be a beast. Lamar Jackson, he's been a headache for people who drafted him. He just hasn't been himself. But I think you should trade for him. Lamar's the real deal. He was MVP last year. He's going to start coming back. He has Cleveland in Week 14, 25th. Jacksonville Week 15, 28th. Then Week 16, he goes to New York. The New York Giants. But I think you got to play him. You got to trade for him. Some people might be sad that he's not doing good, but you have to get Lamar Jackson if you can. Now I'm going to go on to the guys who have bad playoff schedules. I don't like Deshaun Watson. Watson hasn't been himself this year. I don't think that team's that good without Hopkins, that offense in whole. But his playoff schedule is tough. He goes Week 14, he goes to Chicago, the second best defense. Next week, he goes to Indianapolis, who's the best passing defense in the league. You play him either of those games. He goes to Cincinnati the Week 16, which isn't that hard of a game, but you might be out of your playoffs because you started Deshaun Watson 14 to 15. And also, Josh Allen was on fire this year. He was on pace, maybe the MVP. Team still winning, but his playoff schedule just isn't good. He goes Pittsburgh Week 14, Denver easy matchup Week 15, but then he goes to the Pats in Week 16, which I just don't like him that much. Try to trade him, sell high on him. I'm not a big fan of Josh Allen. Then I got a question. Devontae Parker versus the Rams or Robert Woods against Miami? I'm going to go with Robert Woods here. I can't trust Parker just yet. He hasn't been that great. And you got Tua. You don't know who Tua's guy is yet. I can't go with him. So I'm going with Robert Woods. I have him as a wide receiver 2 this week. I think LA is going to have a bounce-back game. They're going to do good. I have another question. Sterling Shepard versus Tampa or CeeDee Lamb against Philly? So my rankings, I have them both about the same at 20 and 21. But I'm going to go Sterling Shepard. I want to say he gets a good amount of work this week. Not confident about it, but I think he's going to get a lot of work. CeeDee, I think he's going to be boom or bust. But I'm going with Sterling Shepard here. But they're both going to be decent this week. Now the question is Ronald Jones or Leonard Fournette? This is random. You don't know. You don't know who's going to be the guy this week. Last week it was Fournette. Every other week it was Rojo. Who knows what's going to happen. But I'm going to go Fournette here. I have them both ranked the same, 14 and 15. But I'm going to go Fournette. It's hard either way. If you can, I would bench them, honestly. But it's hard. Then I like this question. Will Darnell Mooney break out this week if Robinson doesn't play? So Allen Robinson most likely is out this week. Don't put him in your lineup. Make sure he's out of your lineup. He's most likely out. So you got him and Anthony Miller. I think Mooney is going to be the guy who gets the most points. Each of the last 2 games, he's had 3 catches. Nothing amazing, but decent. But I think he's going to get that increased timeshare with no Robinson. I think he is going to be boom or bust versus the Saints. This game will either be a shootout or it's going to be a low-scoring game. If you're desperate for flex and you're like, screw it, I'm going to take a risk, go Mooney at flex. Not a terrible play. I think at minimum he's going to get 6, but I think it's potentially going over 20. Mooney's a boom or bust. Now I'm going to go on to players I will sell high on. I would sell high on Tyler Lockett. Yep, Tyler Lockett, the guy who went off last week, had over 50 points. 50 points for Tyler Lockett. But you're not going to like the next 3 weeks. He plays a top 7 defense in every single week the next 3. He just had a career-high game. Go trade him. Trade him to somebody. He had a career-high game. I saw somebody get 4 solid players for Tyler Lockett. If your team's struggling, you have Tyler Lockett, trade him. Get some depth. Don't be afraid to trade him at all. The 2 games before that game, he had below 10 points. I'm not about all the hype with Tyler Lockett. I think DK Metcalf's going to get more work than him some games. It's going to be inconsistent both ways. Another guy I was sell high on is Antonio Brown. You either love him or hate him. That's how it really is with fantasy. My best case scenario with AB is he's going to be a wide receiver 2, but I think he's going to be a flex play. If some people think he's going to be a wide receiver 1. If you know somebody who thinks that, trade him to him. Get somebody, get some depth, get something, because Antonio Brown isn't going to be amazing, but just get him off your team. Good pickup. Trade him. Next guy is Todd Gurley. He wasn't that great in Thursday Night Football, but that touchdown saved him to get 10 points. He had an easy stretch against his easy defenses the whole time. But now he's a huge stretch of just not playing good run defense. Playing very good run defenses. I consider him a low-end RB2 for the rest of the year. I would trade him, maybe get an RB2 back, and some more. Another guy, DeAndre Swift. It's weird what I think about Swift. I think he's the biggest boomer bust player this year. He's either going to be a high-end RB2, or he's going to be a guy who's, you can't even play him, might be on the waivers, low-end flex. The last 2 games, he's done well. But AP is still getting the ball. AP is still there. Every single game except for week 1, he has had over 10 carries. That is concerning if you're a DeAndre Swift owner. If he gets hurt, then Swift, you got to start him every week. But right now, I don't know if you can even play Swift. It's very risky. I'm not a big Swift guy. But if an injury happens, Swift is legit. But I would try to sell high on him unless you're feeling risky. Keep him on your roster. Then now I'm going to go on players I would buy low on. This is a surprising one. But I think you should buy low on Zeke. Zeke has a tough schedule the rest of the year, and he's been struggling. So people will be like, oh, he's not legit. But I still think he's a low end RB1. Even with these struggles, the talent is there. He is talented. He's the best back there. I think you should trade for Zeke. See what he can give up. See what the guy wants. Get Zeke. Don't expect anything crazy. But he's going to be a solid play. You got to trade for Zeke. I'm going to go right back to Dallas. I think the offense won't be that bad. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. People think with Ben DiNucci and Andy Dalton, they won't be that great. He only had that 1 rushing yard last week. But I still think he's going to be a wide receiver too. I think that offense is going to bounce back. Not as good as it was with Dak, but I think it's going to bounce back. I want some CeeDee Lamb. Give me some CeeDee Lamb. Wide receiver 2, top 20 the rest of the year. Another guy I'm going to go with is Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's been RB1. RB1 since the Chubb's got down. They have a bye next week, and Chubb is going to be back. But I would trade for Hunt because he was doing good with Chubb there. And now he's done even better, of course. But if anything happens to Chubb again, Hunt's going to return to the same role he is as an RB1. I think he's still an RB2, high-end RB2 with Chubb there. If you can get Kareem Hunt, totally get him. Another guy, Jonathan Taylor. Yes, people loved him going into the season. He's been kind of a disappointment. Still solid, but been a disappointment. But his schedule is extremely easy. Taylor only plays 2 top 15 run defense for the rest of the year, which is week 9 and week 16. That is a big gap that could potentially lead you to the playoffs and win you your championship. Taylor will finish as a top 10 back. It's not I think. I know he will finish as a top 10 back. Jonathan Taylor's going to prove himself. He's the real deal, and he's going to prove it to everyone. Now on to the next segment. I'm going to say players to drop and players to add. Drop. It's time to say goodbye to Tyler Higbee. A lot of you guys probably drafted him high thinking he's going to be good. He had a good little run at the end of the year. But I don't like Tyler Higbee. It's time to drop him. He's been terrible. Now he's injured. He had that one good game. He had about 28 points. But now he plays a top 15 defense every single week except one to end the year. You can't have him. Cut him and don't pick him up. Don't even look at him. Just cut him. Julian Edelman is my next guy I would drop. He's not even worth putting in an IR spot. Just drop him. He had that one really good game against Seattle, but that was it in week 2. He's not had a game with over 3 catches since week 2. Not being out for those few weeks, it is okay to drop him. There's nothing wrong with dropping him. Get rid of him. You don't want him anymore. Big Ben is another guy I would drop. He's owning around 80% of the league on ESPN, but he only has 2 games over 20 points. It's the name. That's what people love about him, his name. The team is winning. He's not like the main problem. His fantasy is not that good. He's going to be a streaming option for a few weeks, but he's nothing amazing. I would drop him. Just drop him a hole. Maybe some weeks you'll pick him up just to stream him. That's it. Another guy I would go with is T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton, he was amazing and healthy in the last few years, but you gotta drop him. He's nothing. Drop T.Y. Phillip Rivers just doesn't like him simply. He just doesn't like him. Hilton only has one game to throw at 10 points. It's okay to drop him unless Rivers all of a sudden starts loving him, which should happen. Another guy I would add is Rashard Higgins. Rashard Higgins will become the second target there. I think he's going to be a flex play, potentially a wide receiver too. I love Rashard Higgins. He's just had a game of 6 catches, 110 yards. I think he's the real deal. He's confident about himself too, which I like. He said he's going to start. He knows he's going to start. I think Rashard Higgins is legit. So Michael Hasty, running back to San Fran. San Fran loves him. It's a crowded backfield, especially with Coleman returning. But I think he's worth a bench spot. Not a star, but worth a bench spot. Put Hasty on your bench. Don't expect anything crazy. I would definitely get him. Another guy I would add is Tua. Tua, don't start him. I want to start him. But he's a solid guy to have on your bench. He could either be amazing like how he was in Alabama, or he could be terrible. It's worth that risk on your bench. Put Tua there. You could potentially be your QB1 going into the playoffs the rest of the year. He could lead you to the playoffs, or he could be absolutely nothing. But it's worth that risk to add Tua. Add him now before he's gone. Last guy I would say to add is Dallas Goedert. Goedert might play this week. He might not, but I don't think he'll play at all. They also have a bye week next week. But I think even with no Ertz, he's a tight end 1. And remember Ertz come back, he's still going to be low on tight end 1. Goddard's showed he's good, and he does even better without Ertz. He had that great run from, if you had him in the playoffs last year, you know what I'm talking about, where he was one of the top tight ends. Dallas Goedert's a top pickup. And another guy I'm going to go with, do not pick up any Seattle Seahawks running back. Don't pick up any of them. Leave them on the waivers. Don't pick up any of them. Carlos Hyde's not going to play. Travis Homer might not play. Chris Carson might not play. DJ Dallas is going to play. I don't think any of them that good against the San Fran run D. That is in the top. Wouldn't play any of them. Leave them in your waivers. Nothing else. Don't add them. That's it for me now. Let's see if you guys have any questions. Thoughts on Herbert? I love Justin Herbert. He's a QB1 for the rest of the year. Trade for him if you can. Justin Herbert is legit. I think you have to get him. If you can get him, go for it. But if not, it's whatever. You can have the guys to stream. If you had Dak, try to trade for some guys. Try to trade for Carson Wentz. I'm going to say that again. Carson Wentz. I love Carson Wentz to end the rest of the year. He's going to be a top 5 quarterback at the end of the year. Carson Wentz is legit. Trade for him. His schedule is not that hard. Gets you some Carson Wentz. But guy I hate. I don't like Drew Brees no more. I think he's going to have a good week this week, or he's going to suck. But I think you should cut him. I don't think he's anything amazing. Cam Newton, you're a Cam owner. He's not going to be the guy who leads you to anywhere. Drop Cam. Then, so guys that are hurt, Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is another guy you could potentially buy low on. People are going to be worried about his injury. Maybe you can throw in a low-end wide receiver too. Nothing amazing. Throw in some depth. You get that potential of Miles Sanders being an absolutely animal. Same with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, same. He was doing really good. Much better than how Miles Sanders is doing. I think Aaron Jones, I wouldn't go too crazy on this. I don't think he's going to be amazing like how he was at the beginning of the year. But he's definitely worth asking the guy who owns Aaron Jones what he wants for him. If you can trade a low in RB2, somebody like Darrell Henderson, and throw in another wide receiver. Like, let me think of somebody. Like a Robert Woods type guy. If you could do that, do it. One guy, I think, Le'Veon Bell is another guy I think you should trade low on. Le'Veon has the potential to win your league. If anything ever happens to Clyde, Le'Veon's going to go off. I think Le'Veon's going to have a good week. This week, he plays the Jets. Jets suck. They're going to give Le'Veon the ball. But I think he's the potential to win you your league. Gets you some Le'Veon. He's going to have a good week, but gets you some Le'Veon. Now that I'm going to Justin Jackson and Joshua Kelly. Eckler's going to be out a few more weeks. I'm not big on Jackson or Kelly. I don't think either of them would do amazing. It's going to be... They play Las Vegas next week. It's all touchdowns. It's nothing amazing with those two. But one guy I kind of like that maybe could fit in the end of your roster is Malcolm Brown. Who knows what's going on in the backfield? Cam Akers, I think he's played 4 snaps combined in the last 2 games. Cam Akers is nothing. He's out the picture. But Malcolm Brown, he's a guy who is very interesting. He has games where he does good. Some teams, Darrell Huntington got to work. Henderson is good also. But Malcolm Brown's worth a little. J.K. Dobbins. This is a big week for him. He goes against a tough Pittsburgh defense. But this is a huge week for J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins, if he goes off, he is going to be a RB2. If he has a good game, J.K. Dobbins is going to play. They could go all Gus Edwards. Who knows? Gus Edwards or J.K. Dobbins. I would take the risk. And J.K. Dobbins or trading something little for J.K. Dobbins. But nothing amazing. J.K. Dobbins is some guy I do like. Another guy would go, I think he's legit, is T. Higgins. T. Higgins is going to be a legit guy the rest of the year. I love T. Higgins. He has a pretty decent offense with Joe Burrow. Much better than it was at the beginning of the year. T. Higgins is the guy. Him and A.J. Green, but I think T. Higgins will beat him out the job. Brandon Ayuk is an interesting guy. That whole San Fran team is very interesting. But I think Ayuk is going to be inconsistent throughout the year. I don't really think he's an ad anymore. Keep him on the waiver wire, but nothing. Don't expect anything crazy. Maybe you can stream him this week against a bad Seattle D, but I would keep Ayuk in the waivers. I love streaming just Eagles tight ends. Eagles tight ends. There's always one that's decent. Like this week, it's going to be Richard Rodgers. He's the start this week, Richard Rodgers. You play him. He's going to get you over 10 points for Dallas. Dallas is terrible. The defense is terrible. Richard Rodgers is a great ad this week. And Goddard, I already explained earlier. Pick up Goddard. Goddard could win you the league. Zach Ertz. I don't think Zach Ertz is going to be that great. I think Zach Ertz banged up. I think he's washed. I just don't think he's that good anymore. He hasn't done anything. I would trade for him. Gronk. If you can trade Gronk, trade him. I would go for that. Question, should I trade McCaffrey for both Aaron Jones and James Robinson? That's a good one right there. Aaron Jones is interesting with his injury. I think James Robinson, he's going to be a top 10 back, but at the end of the year, he kind of has a tough schedule. It matters how your team is. If you have other bad backs, I wouldn't do it. But if you have another top back like Derrick Henry or somebody, most likely you don't. But if you have a top back, like even James Conner, if you have James Conner, do the trade. But if you have a poor RB2, don't do it. But definitely, though, if you have depth, do that trade because McCaffrey with a decent back is going to be good. McCaffrey's going to still be a top 3 running back for the rest of the year. Get some McCaffrey. I would be fine with that. But I think that is it for the very first podcast. Thank you for everyone listening. More great things to come. This is the first of many podcasts. Follow the Instagram, Come Talk About Sports. Spotify, Come Talk About Sports. And the same name with YouTube. Follow all the socials. You get all the updates. Thank you. I appreciate it.